Mr. Hallam here, hoping to give you some top tips on how to write a more cohesive argument. So this is building on the work that you did last week on writing from a viewpoint. Fantastic to see so many of you sending in your viewpoint writing and really understanding how to write from a viewpoint and using those techniques that we talked about in the last video. So that's fantastic to see. Well done. This week we are completing writing task 3, thinking about cohesion. So a cohesive argument is a well-structured argument. So let's look at some of the devices which we can use to help link our ideas together. So coherence refers to how well ideas are connected in a text. You should be able to use a range of devices which link your ideas together. So you want in your piece of writing there be a clear thread throughout that piece of writing which links all of the ideas together, and it's been crafted in a particular way. So thinking about some links and devices which you can use, one device you can use is discourse markers, like however. So similarly, these can be really useful at the start of sentences to help develop on an idea and build on an idea. So there's a clear link between your sentences and between your paragraphs. And using conjunctions as well is really useful. So eventually, moreover, furthermore, therefore, all of these can help to ensure that there is a thread in your piece of writing. So if you've written about one point at the end of one paragraph, you can start your next paragraph by saying furthermore, comma, and then elaborating on that point that you've previously made. So hopefully that will ensure that there is a link between your ideas and a continuing link throughout your whole piece of writing. So make sure you're using conjunctions when you're writing your own piece. Another thing that's really important and a useful tool is repetition. So using a keyword or phrase more than once. If you're writing about a particular topic, and this week it'll be writing about a particular hero of yours, a good thing to do is to make sure that your message or your clear viewpoint on that topic is repeated throughout. So it might be a phrase that is repeated. Say for instance, you could say inspirational. And you might repeat that word, inspirational, throughout your piece of writing and have it in each paragraph in one way or another to ensure that there is a thread throughout your piece of writing. Another good thing to do is to use anaphora. So this is a subtle distinction with repetition in that it is a repeated phrase at the beginning of each sentence. So when we look at these three sentences, here we have ellipses which imply there is a paragraph that would follow it. So essentially, the sentences here that Barack Obama is using are each paragraph. So this is in the Berlin speech, which was one of his last speeches in 2008 in front of 200,000 people. And he, as many other successful leaders have done in terms of writing a cohesive speech, is using anaphora. So people of the world, look at Berlin. Look at Berlin, where Germans and Americans, and then there'll be a paragraph that follows. Look at Berlin with the determination. Look at Berlin where the bullet holes. So just this use of anaphora here, and this is the anaphora, look at Berlin, because the phrase starts each paragraph, is really helpful in ensuring that there is a thread throughout his speech. Okay, so throughout your piece of writing, you want your own thread. You want phrases to be repeated, and using anaphora is fantastic to do that. If we think about some of the most inspirational pieces of work that we've seen in our history, we can look at, say, for instance, in America, we can look at the speech of Martin Luther King, that I Have a Dream speech. And if you look at that in your own time, you can see how anaphora is used throughout that, how he repeats, I have a dream. Okay, and that's probably one of the most famous examples of anaphora and the benefits of using it, because it's clear that that phrase, I have a dream, is it's almost like a hook. We remember it. So the reader will remember what you're talking about, and they'll remember about the hero that you desperately want to describe, okay? And you want to get across why they are your hero. Something to think about anyway. So your first task is to look at a piece of writing which is to do with the Queen. But one thing which this piece of writing does really well to think about is to think about how is your piece of writing going to be cohesive. And one way of doing that is by ensuring there is a link between the start of your piece of writing in your introduction to the end of your piece of writing. So in the example that is given you this week, it's about the Queen, and in the first paragraph it says, "A little girl once called her a pretty amazing granny." Then the last sentence of the last paragraph says, "As the little girl once said, that's one pretty amazing granny." So we've got a clear thread. Clearly there are many paragraphs between this that are explaining who the Queen is, but this subtle link between the start and the end, it's not subtle at all, sorry, it's quite a clear, well-crafted link. So it's not trying to be sneaky. It's thought about this beforehand. Right, I want there to be a connection between the start of my piece of writing and the end. And ensuring that there is a connection really will help with the coherence of your piece of writing. So one thing that you can think about trying to implement in your own writing week. Now, task 2 is you to complete a profile for your hero or icon, someone famous or someone personal to you. So for me, the first people that sprung to mind was my mum or Stephen Gerrard. So quite a variety there, someone famous and someone personal to me. Your task is to write 2 paragraphs, introducing your icon and linking the paragraphs together using some of these strategies. So thinking about using discourse markers, conjunctions, can you use Anaphora? Think about what we've just looked at together and try to use them in your own work. Now, I'm going to give you a quick example of an introduction, and this one's going to focus on Gerrard. So I apply to those who do not like football. I'm not a Liverpool fan, but growing up, he was one of my heroes. He got me into sport, and I wanted to emulate him when I was playing football as a kid. And I still rewatch some of his videos on YouTube weekly, actually, just because I think he was such a great player. So, Stephen Gerrard, captain, leader, legend. Never before have I seen one player exhilarate and inspire future generations. Never before have Anfield been such a loyal servant to Liverpool Football Club. Never before has one man's goal and assists been so pivotal for a football team and their rich history. He is undoubtedly a hero, a man to look up to. I wore the number 8 because I aspired to be like him. I have never seen such a great player before or since. So, as I was doing that, you were thinking, right, what techniques has Mr. Hallam used there? So I've thought, Anaphora. I've repeated this short phrase before in 3 separate clauses, and I think that's useful in terms of it being a thread and cohesion throughout this introduction. But it's not just the sentence types I'm using and these types that I'm using. I'm actually thinking about individual word choices I'm using in order to make it clear my viewpoint on this hero. So, never before have I seen one exhilarate a city. When I first was writing this, I put excite, but then I thought, right, what synonym would show this better? And I think exhilarate, a synonym for excite, helps to convey my viewpoint in a more clear way. And I go on to do this further. So instead of saying it's being important, I say pivotal, and I use the adjective rich to describe their history. I think of what I associate with the word rich, and it's being successful and proud of that history. So that's why I've used that word choice there. I could have used a different word. I could have just said their history, but I've deliberately used that word and added a word to help convey my viewpoint. Also clearly mentioned the topic. I've said he is undoubtedly a hero. If that's clear before, it's now. Okay, and I'll go on to explain why he is the hero that I think he is. So just an example of an introduction there, and maybe because I think of never before or since. In my next paragraph, I might say, okay, furthermore, comma, never before have we seen a player motivate their team to such an extent. And I might want to talk about the Champions League final or the gas wonder goal in the FA Cup game against West Ham. So really, it doesn't matter who you choose. It's more the text that you're using in your writing. Don't worry, not on a football and some of what I've just gone completely over your head. Think about the devices you're using. Think about using Anaphora. Think about deliberately using specific pieces of language and selecting your language carefully before you use it. And if you're written a word, read and proofread your work and think, right, could I use a different word there? Could I use a synonym better there? Okay. So I really look forward to seeing you this week. Remember, if you are having any issues at all, you need any help at all, contact your teacher, and remember to submit your work either via Show My Homework on your OneNote page or emailing it to your teacher. So we look forward to seeing your work this week. Have a great week and take care.